What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor, FightfulWrestling.com, here for something a little bit different. Me and Jimmy Van did the Abducted in Plain Sight review that got rave reviews in its own, and I thought, you know what, let's do more movie reviews. But I've got Alex Pawlowski, who's got all this stage experience, Jeff Hawkins, who's got this comedic experience and acting experience, and I thought, you know what, I'm more qualified as an actor, a comedian, or a stage actor than all of them. So I had to get somebody that was on my level. I brought Anna Bauert back.
Hi, Sean. Nice to know I'm on your level. That's good.
You are. I mean, you got
glad
there.
I graduated. Thank you.
You got
it was
there.
all the love and support. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got a new movie coming out. It's around reaching distance.
Yeah.
Got good reviews. I've kept up on it.
That's good to know. Creepy, but good to know.
8.2 on IMDb. You know what else is getting good reviews? Fighting with My Family. So we're here to talk about. Now, this movie was not one that I expected to take off as well as it did, critically or commercially. As we're filming this, it's the wee hours of March 2nd, and it looks like it's going to make its budget back. It sold to MGM last year for $17 million. I didn't expect that a couple of years ago when they said, hey, The Rock's making a movie about Paige. What were your initial expectations when you heard that?
I mean, given that WWE Studios so far have produced classics, The Marine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and not so much 8. And, of course, Dean Ambrose ones that I'm still tempted to see, but also scared that it's just going to ruin everything.
I feel like we should start reviewing these.
Can we?
Yeah, I think that's what we need to start doing.
Hurt me. But yeah, so that's kind of where the ballpark was in my mind. But at the same time, it's The Rock, who is the most highest paid actor in Hollywood. Sure. Yeah, the cast looked great from the get-go, and they were filming at Raw, so it had hope. But yeah, I didn't expect it to be this big or that good, to be honest.
First couple of things that stood out to me, I heard Nick Frost was involved, and I was like, okay, I like him. I like the stuff he's done. Heard Vince Vaughn was involved, and I said, do what? I said, huh? Because there were rumors initially that he was going to play Jake the Snake Roberts. I don't know if you remember that.
I missed that.
Yeah, I don't know what weight that was going to hold, but those were the initial rumors. And of course, The Rock was involved as well. Of course, I thought he appeared in this movie far more than I expected. I really thought it just to be that scene from the trailer that we saw so often. This was also a movie that got pushed a lot more than I expected because during the course of filming and post-production, Paige was in some shit.
I don't know what you're talking about, Sean.
Well, beyond that, I mean, she had a pretty terrible public relationship with Alberto Del Rio. She had failed a couple of drug tests. She had, or not failed a couple of drug tests, failed a couple of wellness tests, had two pretty bad injuries, but has since redeemed herself. And that's a story in its own, but that would be a categorically different movie than the one we're talking about. I liked the movie. I liked the performances of the movie. I thought Florence Pugh, a lot of times in a movie like this, Anna, you'll see somebody like revved up. This was almost a toned down version of Paige, it seemed like.
Yeah. It's funny that how she actually came across. It seemed like in footage, they showed a bit at the end during the credits of Paige during the documentary and at NXT. And then you kind of shifted back mentally to like, oh, okay, that was a very naive, timid version that we saw. And of course, they did cut out all the, the champion stuff, NXT Women's Champion, and it's all for dramatic themes and to make the leap to the final scene that much bigger. I did question if it was also to maybe divert people's Google searches when it comes to the title. But at the same time, probably not, because I don't think it was as public when they were first writing this. I'm not too sure. But yeah, dramatic themes would make sense that they do that.
One of my favorite things. One of my favorite things about this movie is when they show at the end the documentary clips. I've never seen the documentary as of yet, and how similar some of the funnier lines in that movie were to the documentary. Like, that was pretty cool.
Her family is like, and that's one of those things where you see a movie and it's like, oh, that's very much heightened. That's very much Hollywood. And I'm really glad that they did put that at the end, especially for non-wrestling fans to see it, which the screening that we had in Melbourne, I was emceeing. We did the pre-show matches with MCW, Melbourne City Wrestling.com.au, and I was emceeing that, and I was talking to the crowd a bit, asking like, who here is actually into wrestling? Like 2 hands went up. Like,
yeah.
Who here has seen WWE in the last 10 years? A few more hands. Like, who actually know who Paige is? And like 2 people put their hands up. So I think for that reason as well, to get in all these non-traditional wrestling fans and then actually seeing at the end, no, this is legitimate. This is actually where they came from. And hearing like the blind kid that her brother trained was a legitimate story.
Yeah. There was a lot about this that I thought was really special. And I experienced the same thing. I had one person that came up to me afterwards and they were like, I watched Fightful. And I was like, that was cool. And 2 other guys, the older fellas that were near, they're like, what's that? They didn't even know what WWE was. They said, oh, I watched WWE or wrestling in the days of Randy Savage. You got a lot of that because Randy Savage was big in our area in like the 70s, and they would go watch him. I was surprised at the crossover appeal. Now, do I expect this to be a giant moneymaker? No, probably not. I think they eventually will make money off of this, though, based on how everything looks so far. Plus, you have the DVD distribution and Netflix and all that. But if you're a WWE fan and you're going here and you're wanting from an accuracy standpoint and you're going to be a stickler there, this ain't for you. This was more, I compared it more to Tough Enough Season 4 than NXT because they legitimately took elements of Tough Enough Season 4. People got cut. You had an initial tryout. They worked out on the beach. There was a lot of stuff like that that was in this movie, and it wasn't as much NXT. Also, they had people, I don't know if you noticed this, some of the girls that were wrestling with Paige had on Kelly, Alexa Bliss, and Eve Torres's gear.
Mm-hmm. I thought they were interesting choices.
None of which trained with Paige, I believe.
I guess I don't know if WWE would have had input in that or a request as to not maybe mention the other girls who she actually did train with. I don't know, maybe it also detracts from her story in the movie with all the people who are in the know looking at. But I did find it very interesting, those 3 costume choices. But at the same time, it's the same reason as why AJ's outfit at the end of the movie wasn't what she was actually wearing, because they wanted to differentiate more between those kind of girls in the glitter and the tight and the boobs up compared to Paige.
Yeah, and from an accuracy standpoint, the final match, they did have to change that for dramatic effect, because if it played out the way that it did on TV, it just wouldn't have been. What performances stood out to you in this? Personally, I was a big fan of Vince Vaughn. I thought he was the perfect opposite of Florence Pugh, but I want to know what you think.
Yeah, I thought he was great. I haven't seen him in much aside from Wedding Crashers. He really impressed me. She was fantastic. I think the casting in general was great with the looks and everything. Her performance was very impressive. And then to see her in interviews with the real Paige afterwards and how not polar opposite, but very, very different they are. I thought the guy who played her brother as well, who played Zach, I don't know his name, sorry. He was excellent.
Yeah, if you wouldn't have told me, I would have thought that he was like Simon Pegg's son. He looks exactly like a young Simon Pegg. And considering that Nick Frost was in the movie, I was like scratching my head, like, what am I missing here? I thought Stephen Merchant did a good job directing the movie. He was very good in it as well. and he actually wrote an incredible article about it, about how he discovered wrestling and how it's been overlooked by a lot of mainstream media, and they turn their nose up at it. That was just released, that I thought was really awesome. It was a learning experience for him, because he didn't want to direct this movie at first. He had the same issues with it that he talks about in that article. There aren't a lot of great wrestling movies out there. There's The Wrestler, and maybe that's it. And maybe the 1970s version of The Wrestler, and that's it. I can't think of a lot of many others where people just, like, I don't even know of one where somebody had wrestling as a side job, like where it's not even that important to the plot. Like maybe a quick appearance in Spider-Man where Randy Savage was there, but like pro wrestling is not in cinema a whole lot.
Pro wrestling, I think, is a subject to itself that you can't really have it for mainstream movies as the side thing, because then audiences will be like, wait, what the hell is the side thing? I want to know more about that. Don't give a shit about the other stuff.
It does take center stage, so to speak. It's a performance on an elevated stage. Yeah.
At the screening, I got the opportunity to like host it for some reason, but I'm incredibly grateful for that, because I got to do a speech at the start of it and the usual stuff promoting the movie. But then it gave me leeway to talk about why it was important to me. And that's the thing that people don't really understand. And I think a lot of people, unless you're female, I guess, not to put a divide up, but it's kind of a thing of like, this girl, before she won the Divas Champion, like you had Lita and Trish Stratus and stuff, but they were still very much of a type. Whereas Paige came in looking like that, looking more like any, like me than any of the other girls. And she was in wrestling and she called up and straight away champion. I was just saying, like, it's because of girls like her that made me go for the first time, cool, maybe I actually have a place in this industry. And then cut to me standing in front of a full cinema introducing this movie representing Melbourne City Wrestling. So, I mean,
so tell me how that gig came about. I mean, obviously you're known in the area for your work with MCW, and you're a super big actress that is finally on my level.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was it. That was it. They were like looking at your stuff and then going, wait, who could step up to that?
Who was in that monologue that he talked about a lot? Oh, Anna Bauert. She's here? Wow, let's get her.
That's how my life works nowadays. Yeah. It actually came about because they reached out to MCW to put on the pre-show couple of matches. And then I was asked by one of my bosses to MC the matches. And then next thing was an email saying, hey, do you want to host the whole thing? I'm like, sure. Yeah, that's kind of how it came about. But I think also I'm kind of got my own like NXT thing happening in terms of like, I did MCing for the first time for them that night as well. I'm doing commentary for them for the first time at the girl show tomorrow. So they're just trying to see what other areas I can cover. But I'm incredibly grateful. The chances that these guys are taking on me is just,
So what kind of format was that? Did you field questions? Did you kind of introduce things, explain things, or set a stage? How'd that work?
For the hosting, the whole thing was set up by Universal Pictures. So they sent me through like a run sheet and general points of what I needed to hit with the leeway to spurt my own stuff. Notice how good I'm doing with not swearing.
Hey.
I nearly said something else then, but I toned it back. I'm not getting this one demonetized.
Well, we just got flagged as 18 plus on Fightful Select. I don't know what that's about. I don't know what that. I curse less behind the paywall.
I mean, I'm kind of proud of you for that, but
I'm trying.
Step up your game, man. Step up your game. Yeah, so that was essentially welcoming everyone to the theater, telling them a bit about the film and about Paige's, why they made a film about her and her part in women's revolution, and yeah, just why this is a deal to someone like me, which was nice. I got an applause, so that was very sweet. Yeah, and just thanking the sponsors and thank you for everyone coming and just make it more official, I guess.
Yeah. So this movie, I rather enjoyed it. Quite frankly, I don't hit up the movies that much anymore. I'm a TV guy. That's what a lot of the finer stuff is on besides Reaching Distance. Keep your eyes peeled.
Well, yeah.
So I'm trying to kind of decide where to go with this. Do you think it'll be seen as a success when all is said and done? Because they poured a lot more into this than most other movies. Right now, it sits at 10.7 million box office on an 11 million budget. As I mentioned, it sold for 17.5 million to MGM last year. Based on what you know between this and the other distribution models, and whatever money that goes into marketing, I don't know if that's even included in the budget or if that's additional.
I would say it's additional as a guess. I think the movie itself obviously people are going to step into the cinema because The Rock is involved. He's on the poster, front and center, with a dog, which was nice. So that's going to draw more people in. Stands up, funny. They pulled it off exceptionally well. So I think as long as people do spread the word and spread the word of how good it actually is, not even as a wrestling movie, but just as a movie about family, which is really corny for me to say because that's the whole, that's what they're trying to plug, but it's true. It is a movie about an exceptional family, a crazy family, but it's hilarious. I think it does have the potential not to do like ridiculous levels of Marvel or superhero, but for what it is, for what it was made as and for, yeah, I'd call it success.
Well, I'm not going to rate this movie, but what I'll say is it's better than Pulp Fiction. Check it out. It has far less pointless dialogue than Pulp Fiction. Anna, before we wrap up, is there anything you want to say to the viewers of Fightful that miss you so much?
I miss everyone too. And life is pretty busy at the moment. I've just moved to a new city, possibly my new house. I'm not too sure yet. Still sorting things out. And that's all for wrestling. So yeah, even though I can't be with you on a weekly basis, I have started to watch WWE again a little bit.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit of Raw a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, like this week's was good.
Yeah, SmackDown was good too.
Very happy. And now Batista's on it. I think I might tune in a bit more.
Fellow movie stars, good actors.
We have a bond. We just have a thing. The big guy thing. We're one in a kind. But yeah, so things are good over here. And keep an eye out for Melbourne City Wrestling. And for, if you miss me, check out Wrestle Rock, where I play a crazy Russian. It's a lot of fun. I love
that, by the way.
I got stapled somewhere you shouldn't get stapled.
Yeah, I know. So, well, it happens. It happens.
And you know what my dad said?
What?
I showed it to my parents, which I don't know why I did that. But mom was shocked. And dad's response was, well, she kind of deserved it.
That is fair.
Thanks,
That
Dad.
is fair.
Thanks, Dad.
You guys can follow Anna at Anna Bauert. Hopefully we can do more movie reviews. I think that would be a great way to have Anna on Fightful. Of course, guys, follow me at Sean Ross Sapp. Until next time, guys, Fightful.
Subscribe.